With just one end crystal, you can kill a player with full netherite armor in Minecraft. Learn that and much more in this Minecraft video all about end crystals. Let's check it out. Now, end crystals are only one place naturally in Minecraft, and that is the towers of obsidian around the dragon in the Ender Dragon fight. Now you destroy these in the Ender Dragon fight, which hurts the Ender Dragon, and once you've destroyed all of them, then you can start taking health out of it. The reason why is that when the dragon is sort of attached to one of the end crystals like this, it's actually drawing health from one of them, so it regenerates 1/2 heart every second that it is summoning power from those end crystals. So you can technically kill it before destroying these, but it just would be incredibly difficult as regenerating a 1/2 heart every second is very fast. But what role does the end crystal have outside of the Ender Dragon fight? So if you want to get the end crystal yourself, you have to craft it. But how do you craft it? Well, interestingly enough, you don't actually have to go to the end to get the materials to craft the end crystal. All you have to do is get blaze powder and an ender pearl, use those together to craft an eye of ender. Then put that and a ghast tear in the crafting grid just like this, with the eye of ender in the middle there and the ghast tear below it, with 7 glass surrounding it, and that will give you the end crystal. Now once you have this item, what do you actually do with it? I mean, you can try placing it down, but it doesn't place down. You can throw it on the ground, but other than kind of looking cool, how do you actually use this item? To use it, you must place it down on either a piece of obsidian or a piece of bedrock. Now a piece of obsidian can of course be mined up and placed every different place you want, so a piece of obsidian is probably your better option, but you can place them on bedrock as well. So just right click on the obsidian like this or on the bedrock and it will place it just like that. It does look exactly like it does in the Ender Dragon fight, with a couple differences that I'll get into later. But you can kind of see here it's floating on the piece of obsidian. If I turn on hitboxes, you can see the hitbox of this item is actually about 2 by 2 meters, or 2 blocks by 2 blocks there, but it's centered in the middle of here. So if we hit it even in the very corner here, right there, it would still explode because its hitbox is just so large. Now the biggest use of the end crystal is this, the fact that it's completely deadly and is perfect for PvP. And I'm going to explain how to do end crystal PvP, in fact one of the easiest ways of killing your opponent right now. Now of course that blast of the end crystal killed me with no armor on, but what if I'm wearing full netherite armor, where every single piece has blast protection 4 on it. This is ideally the best kind of protection you can get against an explosion in the game. Well, if we go up to it and right click, we still die. That's with full netherite blast protection 4. So how can you be protected from this crazy explosion? You can also see a significant amount of damage was placed on this armor with just that one explosion. You can survive the explosion in blast protection 4 armor, but only if you're a little bit away from it. So if we're right here and we explode it, like let's say we go right here and we explode this, we won't die, but we will be placed at 1 heart of health, which I think is pretty bad considering that you could be finished off very easily with, let's say, a sword or an axe or some other weapon. So definitely there's not much you can do to protect yourself from end crystals this way. But there is one way that you can protect yourself from end crystals. So with the way that explosions give damage in Minecraft, the top half of the player doesn't receive very much damage at all, but the bottom half of the player receives most of the damage. So if you can protect the bottom half of your player and have the top half still be exposed so that you can, let's say, explode the end crystal, then you can be safe from it. Let's try that out right here. If we put the end crystal right here, and let's say we dig down quite a ways so that we're right here beneath it and we explode it, it's not actually going to give us almost any damage whatsoever. Even with most of our hearts gone here, if we go next to it but 1 block lower from it and explode it, you can see it did take away 1.5 hearts. Again, this is with the blast protection 4, but it certainly did not kill us, and if you have a very large amount of health already, that's not going to matter too much. So it's obviously quite a dangerous weapon. But the problem is you have to place down a block, then place down a block on top of it, then right click, and then the player could die from the damage. But that's a bit slow. So there's 2 things you can do to make this a little bit quicker of a death, and also how you actually execute this kill with your end crystals. So one of the most common places that people use end crystal PvP is on Anarchy servers. In Anarchy servers, there's often very large areas where there's no blocks that are even existent anymore, except for the bedrock at the bottom of the world. And because you can place end crystals on bedrock, this makes it a super good place to kill players with end crystals, as you don't have to place down a block to explode it. But if you're not in an area where there's exposed bedrock, here's what you basically want to do. You only want to have one end crystal in your inventory, so that if you do get killed by it yourself, the player that grabs it cannot kill you with it later. We have here some husks in full netherite armor, as husks, interestingly enough, have the same amount of HP as the player. And ideally what you'd want to do is you want to go up to the player close. If they don't think you're PvPing, this would be a lot easier, but if they do, then you want to be very quick with this. You want to right click, then look up a little bit, right click, then you want to left click. Now obviously that itself is very slow. That's not really going to trick any players into getting killed by an end crystal. But what will is if you master this trick and do it incredibly quickly. Now I'm not going to do this very quickly, but I'll do it as quickly as I can. You go up to your player, right click, left click like that. That's pretty fast. You can notice there it didn't actually hurt the player that much. Why is it? Well, it's because this piece of obsidian is blocking the damage, because the damage is only on this top half of the player here. So you want to watch out for that as well, as ideally they could be near maybe some blocks that are lower down. So let's say that we have a little bit of an area that's kind of like that, where there's some blocks that are a bit lower than the player. That's the perfect place to kill a player with the end crystals. So you can just go up to them and, you know, just basically right click, left click like this. The only problem is you want to get lower than them. So if you're higher than them, that's obviously a bad thing, because what'll happen? Well, they'll die, but you'll also almost die yourself as well. So what you want to do is you want to find the best place to kill your player, and then you can get your end crystal and obsidian, and you can simply right click, left click like that. And of course we had very low HP there, so we died. But generally we wouldn't be dying in that situation, and you could kill the other player easily. Alright, so let's try that out one time successfully. Also, when you are trying to get a bit lower than the player to place your end crystal, and so that you're not killed by the blast as well, if you find a place like this, that's really good, where it's a bit of a lower area already. If not though, if you do have a very quick shovel, you can always dig some blocks down and place it down. It just is more time, so again, ideally that wouldn't work that well. Alright, let's try that out here. Go up to the player, right click, left click like that. The player was killed. We lost literally half a heart, and that was a full netherite armor player in terms of HP. That's how incredibly overpowered end crystal PvP really is, and you can see it's actually quite easy as well. However, there's a lot more than just punching an end crystal that can explode it. Let's go over what else you can do to destroy this item. Basically, any single attack will destroy the item, including ranged attacks. So for instance, a trident could destroy the end crystal. A snowball could destroy an end crystal, so something in basically no damage could destroy it like that. Of course, a arrow from a bow and arrow can destroy an end crystal. As we saw already, a punch can destroy an end crystal, but some things you think would destroy an end crystal don't. So for instance, fireworks out of a firework crossbow like this actually do not destroy the end crystal. And also being exactly where the end crystal is, moving around it, things like this, that doesn't destroy the end crystal either. So for a PvP use, let's say that you have a player that has to walk next to some end crystals, or they don't realize that the end crystal is there, maybe you hide it somewhere. You could have a mechanism where you kind of launch a projectile from far away like this, and let's say they're next to it like that. You could explode it there without having to worry about being lower than it. End crystal PvP is a great way of using the end crystal, but its intended feature is not actually as a PvP weapon. In fact, I think its only intended use in-game is to resummon the Ender Dragon. That's right, you can easily resummon the Ender Dragon with just 4 end crystals, just like that. So that would require 4 ghast, tears, some glass, and also 4 eyes of Ender. All you have to do is, once you've defeated the Ender Dragon, simply place an end crystal, just like this, 4 of them all around the end portal like that. And once you've done that, you will resummon the Ender Dragon. So you can see, first of all, your access here to the portal here is removed. Then these kind of blasting rays go to every single one of the pillars like that, and they basically have an explosion. Then they put a new end crystal there, and once they've done that, they all kind of go to the top like this in a really cool animation. I think probably one of the coolest in the game. It finishes going here to the last one. Now all of them kind of blast their power towards the top there, and once I've done that for a little bit there, we have the Ender Dragon summon with a lot of very loud noises in these animations. And now we can basically refight the Ender Dragon. However, there are some differences. So the first difference is you will not get a nether dragon egg when you defeat this Ender Dragon. So there's only ever one dragon egg in a world, unless of course you delete the actual file for the end. Another difference is that when you kill the Ender Dragon, it will not give you the original insanely large amount of XP that it normally would in the Ender Dragon fight. So that's something good to note. However, every single time that you defeat the Ender Dragon, you actually get a new end portal. There's one right there, and there are some other ones around here also. And you can just get more and more of them the more times that you defeat the Ender Dragon. And they'll also go to different places on the bit of the end that you kind of teleport to on the edge of the End Islands there. So you can have access to lots of different areas as well. So it can actually be a very good idea to respawn the Ender Dragon or resummon it. But the main reason for resummoning it is because of these purple kind of fireballs that it shoots at you, or the Dragon's Breath, because that gives you Dragon's Breath. So you can have bottles. If you right click on the Dragon's Breath with bottles, that will give you Dragon's Breath bottles, and those are incredibly useful for things like making tipped arrows. Link on the screen right now if you want to learn about that process in full. Now, end crystals are placed on bedrock and obsidian, but you can destroy the bedrock and obsidian under them, and they will stay floating there normally. Well, of course you can't destroy the bedrock under them unless you're in creative mode, but either way, you can have your end crystal just sitting there. We can even see the hitbox is literally just hovering in the air there. You can log out, log back in, do anything you'd like, and it will stay there. It certainly does not need to be on the obsidian, it just needs to be placed on the obsidian, and because of that, you can make awesome end crystal displays, and I'll show you how to make one of those right now. So one thing you can do is place down some blocks sort of like this, just to make a base for your display. Then in the middle, place a piece of obsidian like that. Surround this in some glass if you'd like, or whatever you'd like really, but of course glass is something that you'd want to use so you can see through it. Then place your end crystal here. Then you can put the top up with maybe some stairs like this, some slabs, whatever you'd really like, but just something to make kind of a cool looking display case, and place a solid block at the top there. Then once you have that, you can keep it just like that. It kind of looks cool, but to make something that looks really cool so you don't have this tube look with the obsidian there, you just have to dig down beneath it just like this a little bit. It's really not that difficult. And once you've found your piece of obsidian below it there, you can mine it out, because again you can just mine these blocks, they don't need to be on the obsidian like that. Place some glass beneath it, then place a piston facing upwards like that. Take a lever, place it here, and push the piece of glass up there. Then you can just break the piston here, place a piece of glass here again, place down your piston again, make it go up again like that. Then just finish off by placing a nether brick here, or whatever block you wanted to build your end crystal display case out of. Fill this up right here, and when you look at it, you can see we have that end crystal that's completely submerged or kind of filled with the glass there, with the blocks on top of it and below it. And here's what makes this so important. If we put on the hitbox here, you can notice the hitbox is completely surrounded in the glass, meaning that we can hit it with a trident, just like this. We can hit it with anything we want really that's like a projectile. We will not have any issues with this exploding. We also can't punch it by accident. Of course you could break the glass and punch it, but ideally. And what's nice about that is then you can have a safe way of displaying this really cool item in your base, just like that. When one end crystal explodes, every end crystal within 11 blocks of it will explode as well. But those ones will not trigger any further explosions. So for instance, if we explode this end crystal here, that one there will disappear because it's exploded as well. And you can see that is the distance of how far away it can be. Also, I'm right clicking here and I cannot place an end crystal. Why is that? If I place here, can it work? No, it doesn't. So I basically have to have any end crystal placed next to each other to be at least one block away in a straight line like that, as well as in a diagonal, so it works either way. Once you have these here, of course, they can just stay there. They even have kind of a nice wavy motion like that. Just be aware if you have a whole lot of end crystals and you have one explode even somewhat far away, the other ones will explode as well. Now here is a really cool Easter egg with end crystals. If you look in the center of them here, although it's a bit dizzying, you can notice there's these symbols, and there's a symbol on every single side of the crystal. Now this is not confirmed by Mojang, but if you place these symbols in the correct order, it actually looks like it does spell the words Mojang. But I'm not sure. It is interesting though, because Mojang has 6 letters, this has 6 sides, so it certainly would make a lot of sense if there was an interesting Easter egg hidden there. So that's probably what the ancient runes on the end crystal spell, which I think is a really cool Easter egg. You may have noticed every single time I explode an end crystal, it doesn't seem to be destroying any blocks. But the end crystal is an explosive. In fact, it is 50% more powerful than TNT. Why isn't it destroying any blocks? Well, it's because there's this piece of obsidian beneath it. If we were to, let's say, destroy this piece of obsidian and explode the end crystal, well, you could just say that the explosive damage is a lot higher than it would be if that was still there. Now it does explode things above it as well, so let's say we're going to place a piece of obsidian here, place an end crystal there, maybe see if we can use this trident to detonate it from afar, so we do not die from the explosive damage there. It would, for instance, destroy the tree there, but it does not destroy any single block that is below this piece of obsidian. You could actually use this strategically if you want to kind of destroy the underbrush of an area, and you had a lot of end crystals, we're kind of late game. You could go around placing down the pieces of obsidian, just like let's say here, and you want all the blocks around here to be destroyed, but not the ones that are beneath it. You could simply place that, explode it from afar, and voila, you have a very large area that has all the top blocks destroyed from it. Also, something very important you need to know if you play the Bedrock edition of Minecraft is that when you destroy an end crystal, regardless of if there's blocks beneath it or not, in Bedrock edition, it does destroy blocks underneath it, sort of like this. So the end crystal is certainly a much more destructive item in Bedrock edition, because it does not have any care about if there's this bedrock or obsidian. As a last little fun thing, if we summon an end crystal with the summon command in a command block, just like this, and we have it repeat and be always active, you can see two things. Number one, they do actually have the bedrock base beneath them like that, but also it begins to summon so many. We have this incredibly satisfying end crystal visual right here, which I think is one of the most satisfying things in Minecraft. Just be aware, they still explode very fiercely, as this command block will continue to place them down infinitely. You also cannot place end crystals like this in survival, but you can see here there's this really cool look to them. It's almost weird to look at this and think of what even block is this in Minecraft. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!